Ladies and gentlemen, how about a round of applause to all of our national media NBA award voters for once again exposing themselves. They claim they watch and cover all 30 NBA teams, and yet their award voting proves otherwise. Not only did Malik Monk not win the NBA Sixth Man of the Year award, he lost to Naz Reid of the Minnesota Timberwolves. 7 different voters trusted by the NBA to vote on these awards. 7 of them completely left Malik Monk off of their ballots. It doesn't make sense. It's inexcusable. It's inexplainable. And yet, it's not at all surprising. You are listening to Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And let's start with this. Get it out of the way. Absolutely, I have a Sacramento Kings bias. Absolutely, I look at the league to some extent through purple-colored glasses. I wear my Sacramento Kings fandom on my sleeve, both in and outside of my place of work, covering the NBA, covering the Kings, hosting this Locked On Kings podcast. I absolutely 100% have a Kings bias. No problem admitting that. No problem saying that. It's probably why I'm not an NBA award voter, because I bring biases to the table. Now, we're all human beings, right? All voters are human beings. And I'm not expecting NBA voters, all 99 of them, I'm not expecting them to focus on the Sacramento Kings and watch the Sacramento Kings as much as they watch either their market team or the major market primary teams that generate more clicks or generate more views or whatever metric that garnish or that leads to their success. I expect those teams to get more attention than the Sacramento Kings do. 100%. I'm not naive to this. But if you have the responsibility of being an NBA award voter, that means you need to be doing your research. You need to be paying attention to the rest of the league, to all 30 NBA teams and the players from all 30 NBA teams that fall under the specific category or specifications of the award in question. The NBA Sixth Man of the Year award is given to the best player off the bench who makes an impact in winning, who has the best numbers. Typically, it's very scoring driven and scoring oriented, or at least it has been in years past when other players, not named Malik Monk, have won, right? It is a award that is specific to the performance of a player off of the bench. It is an individual award. Team success can play a part, but is not the most important part, especially if team success is separate from the player's involvement in that success. The NBA Sixth Man of the Year award is created to honor a player like Malik Monk, who absolutely deserves to be a starter, is absolutely capable of being a starter. But strategically, the Sacramento Kings have him come off of the bench because that is where he is at his best, in their opinion, or Mike Brown's opinion, and that is where he helps his team the most. It is an award designed not to ignore players who aren't a part of a starting five. And yet, the clear above and beyond statistical eye test, whatever you want to put, whatever metric you want to put out there, the best individual Sixth Man of the Year gets snubbed. Malik Monk does not win the award. He is the first player in NBA in 35 years to lead the league in both bench points in back-to-back seasons without winning Sixth Man of the Year. He led the league in points off the bench this season, led the league in assists off the bench this season, most 20-point games off the bench this season, most 25-point games off the bench this season, most clutch points, field goals made, and three-pointers made off of the bench. The only area where Naz Reid was noticeably better than Malik Monk is in rebounding. Naz Reid is a center, Malik is a guard. I would expect Malik's assist numbers to be better than Naz, and I would expect Naz's rebound numbers to be better than Malik's. Now, Naz has a better three-point shooting percentage on a lesser volume. Malik Monk has more made three-pointers than Naz Reid does. And in addition to this, the best or most of the best games of Naz Reid's season were as a starter. Naz Reid started in 14 games this season. Those 14 games and the numbers that he put up in those 14 games should not count towards his Sixth Man of the Year voting and his numbers that are involved in his argument to win Sixth Man of the Year. It should not count. It does not meet the qualifications. Those are minutes as a starter. Malik Monk played every single minute this season coming off the bench like a true sixth man. Even when the Kings dealt with injuries, even when they lost De'Aaron Fox or Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk continued to come off the bench as a sixth man, as was his role. Naz Reid stepped into the starting lineup when Karl Anthony Towns got hurt. And with his more opportunity and more minutes, he put up some solid numbers. But out of his top 10 scoring games this season, Naz Reid, 5 of them were as a starter. So half of his top 10 scoring games should not count, should not matter. But all of this that I'm saying is a moot point altogether because statistically Malik Monk wins the argument. Eye test-wise, Malik Monk wins the argument. The reason why Naz Reid is the Sixth Man of the Year and not Malik Monk is because Naz Reid played for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who had a fantastic season. I'm not taking anything away from the Timberwolves at all. He won because of his team's success coming off the bench behind 3 stars in Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, and Rudy Gobert. Yes, I classify Rudy Gobert as a star considering his Defensive Player of the Year numbers and awards that he's won and the money that he's being paid. Meanwhile, in Sacramento, Malik Monk not only is a six-man through and through, he fits the criteria to an absolute T. He comes off the bench and has to be the third best player on this Kings team. If you want to give a nod or give an edge to a player in some way because of how their team performs, I get it. I know that is part of the criteria, but it is not the deciding factor like in this circumstance. Naz Reid's team and how good they finished in the West should not dictate how the Sixth Man of the Year award voting should go, or certainly should not dictate Naz winning over Malik when Malik has him in literally every other way. It's highway robbery. But if we're being honest here, let's be real. These awards don't really matter, right? They don't matter. So, Matt, why are you so upset? Why are you so bothered by Malik not winning the award? For one, I know how much Malik really, really wanted to win it and how much he's deserved it, right? He's deserved this recognition and he is not getting it. So I'm mad for Malik. But even beyond that, this is Sacramento. This is the Kings. Malik Monk did not win this award because of the team across his chest. And let me explain that a little bit because I put that on social media. I even mentioned the example I used was if Malik Monk still played in Los Angeles with the Lakers, and I brought up the Lakers specifically because that's the last team he played for. If Malik still played in Los Angeles and put up the numbers that he did this season, specifically as a sixth man, he would have won the Sixth Man of the Year award with flying colors. Not because Lakers is across his chest, but because playing in LA in a larger market, more of the so-called national media members who cover the entire league are going to be paying more attention to the Lakers and what Malik is doing in LA versus the Kings and what Malik is doing in Sacramento. And I see Minnesota Timberwolves fans reacting to these things that I'm saying on social media. I also see Lakers fans being dumb, but that's to be expected. But Minnesota Timberwolves fans going, how can you say that Nas won the award over Malik because of markets? Look at Minnesota. I know Minnesota is not exactly the biggest NBA market in the world, and Minnesota has been disrespected and ignored by the national media for a long time too. So Minnesota Timberwolves fans should understand what I'm saying here. Because I'm not saying that Naz Reid won the award because more people watch and because the Minnesota Timberwolves have a larger media bias than the Sacramento Kings do. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, what I believe happened is people didn't watch either the Timberwolves or the Kings. And if anybody watched one more than the other, it's going to be the Timberwolves because of how well they played this season and because of some of the players, the superstars on that roster, like Anthony Edwards, for example. But in my opinion, what happened here is a lot of NBA voters didn't pay any attention to either guy and just gave it to the guy on the better team because it's the easy, lazy, dumb way to do it. Because if they actually watched the Kings and the Timberwolves play consistently, they would know that Malik played better, was more impactful, and was more important than Naz Reid was to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I'm not saying that to take anything away from Naz because he's very, very essential to that extremely talented team. It's because what Malik has done in Sacramento, what he did all season long, is absolutely undeniable. And recency bias be damned. It's not even a part of this conversation to me. Because if you want to say that Naz won this award because Malik got hurt at the end of the season, I understand that to some extent, except for the fact that if you're basing your argument off of team success, the Sacramento Kings struggled at the end of the season, had their worst stretch of the season at the end of the year, and ultimately ended up missing the playoffs because Malik Monk was not with them. If anything, that is an argument in favor of Malik and his significance and importance as a sixth man to the success of the Sacramento Kings. All arguments, all logical arguments point to Malik Monk being the 100% above and beyond NBA sixth man of the year. But he is not, because the Kings are an afterthought. These people aren't watching and aren't paying attention. They're lazy and they choose a narrative that is backed by wins. And I saw this response on Twitter. I'll address it really quick. Matt, the Kings won a bunch of awards last year because they finished as a third seed. Let's break that down for a second. Clutch Player of the Year that De'Aaron Fox won. That is a completely individual award that has everything to do with Fox's fourth quarter scoring, in which he was the best player in the league in fourth quarter scoring. That's why he won the award, not because the Kings were the third seed. Now, because of that clutch scoring, the Kings won a lot of games in order to be a third seed. So that goes hand in hand. But Fox did not win that Clutch Player of the Year award last year because the Kings were a third seed. He won it because he was the most clutch player of the year. Malik Monk should have won Sixth Man of the Year because he was the best sixth man in the NBA this year, bar none, regardless of a team record. Okay, Coach of the Year, Executive of the Year. Yeah, these are two awards that are completely team-based because coaches and executives don't have stats. They're not out there playing. They're not shooting. They're not getting free throws, right? That is a completely team-based award. So you're right. Mike Brown and Monty McNair both won those awards last year because of the Kings' turnaround and the Kings' success. So you're right there. But the two are not comparable with Sixth Man of the Year. And then we're talking about all NBA nods. Yes, the Kings got two all NBA players largely because of the success of the team last year and the turnaround of the team. Also, both those players put up all NBA caliber numbers and were on and leaders of the best team in the league. We're talking about stars. We're not talking about a sixth man. We're talking about stars. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know who these 7 people are that had Malik Monk off their ballot or out of their top 3. I was okay with this award being close if Malik Monk had edged it out, because Naz Reid had a fantastic season. He deserved votes. He deserved attention. He also campaigned like hell, or the Timberwolves campaigned like hell for him, and I give him credit for that. I'm really not trying to tear down or disparage Naz Reid, but anybody who actually watched basketball, and I watched the Timberwolves play a lot this year. Why? Because they were one of my favorite teams in the league this year. I've wanted Naz Reid in Sacramento for 2 seasons. I know how good he is. But he is not comparable. His impact off of the bench as a true 6-man is not comparable this season to what Malik Monk did. Not even a little bit. It's not. But Malik doesn't win the award. But what does that mean for Malik? Does that have any impact on Malik's contract negotiations this offseason? We'll talk about that and break that down here in just a little bit. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by DoorDash. This Mother's Day, get something thoughtful for mom on DoorDash. Surprise her from whatever you want, with fresh bouquets to the latest tech, gift cards, self-care treats, and more. Hey, even groceries. I'd be pretty excited as a mom to get groceries and not have to do some grocery shopping. You can make her day so much better on DoorDash. Does mom have a sweet tooth? Is she a tech enthusiast, a beauty connoisseur, or is she outdoorsy? No matter what she's into, you can make her smile with a fruit or flower bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout wear, and more. You can pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way that she wants. If she's a bookworm, you can try a bookstore gift card. If she loves a good latte, a gift card to her favorite coffee shop. You truly can't go wrong. Get thoughtful gifts that she deserves with the convenience that you need. Choose same-day delivery or schedule a week ahead for her flowers and gifts, and they'll arrive at her door when you schedule with DoorDash. Shop to savings that would make her proud. With a Dash Pass membership, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduced service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees do apply, and terms do apply. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place. Get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order right now with code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms do apply. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by Monopoly Go. Now, if it wasn't perfectly clear by that segment talking about Malik Monk winning the 6th Man of the Year award, I'm a very competitive person, even when it comes to awards to other people that have nothing to do with me. Well, I do have a competitive side. The reality is we all do have that competitive side. And that competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. If you haven't heard of it, it's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you in some big money. And the best part, I'm just messing around with my friends. I'm talking about charging them rent on my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who's the biggest Monopoly tycoon amongst my friends and family group. But it's not just the competitive side that loves it. I can even team up with my friends and people from all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get into the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now for free on the App Store or on Google Play. All right, so what does Malik Monk not winning the 6th Man of the Year award mean towards his contract negotiations and his free agency this summer? The short answer, in all truth, is not a lot. Like, I don't think there's too many general managers, or really any general managers, if they have any sort of basketball IQ, who are looking at this result and going, now I don't want Malik, or now I think Malik Monk is worth less money than I was originally going to pay him. It doesn't have that big of an impact, right? Malik, people see his value around the league, whether he gets the award or not. There was not a better 6th man in the league than Malik Monk was, regardless of what this award says. And there's really nothing you can say that changes my mind on that. And again, I watched Naz Reid play a lot of basketball this year. It's not comparable. It's truly not. Malik, it's not necessarily his role that made him successful, although I do believe a lot of how he played and when he played and the minutes that he played here in Sacramento led to his success over the last couple of years. But the type of player that Malik Monk is, the reality is, even if he wasn't starting games, he was closing games. He was the 3rd best player consistently on this Kings team all season long. His shooting, his facilitating, being a floor general, his two-man game with bigs, his ability to attack the basket, the energy that he brings, and plus the player and person that he is off the court as well in the locker room. All these play a significantly bigger factor in the payday that he's going to get from some team and the interest that he's going to have on the market than winning this NBA Sixth Man of the Year award does. So in reality, it doesn't really mean that much. Here's what I think the biggest impact from Malik not winning the Sixth Man of the Year award is going to come, or is it going to play it out in this scenario. If I'm Malik, and from what I understand of Malik has wanted to start always, right? Like being a starter is what Malik Monk wants. Now, Malik is a great teammate. He's a excellent player. He does his job, and he said repeatedly here in Sacramento, as much as he wants to start, if his role is to come off the bench for the team, that's what he's going to do, and he's going to do it to the best of his ability. So he, in Sacramento, embraced what his role was here. It's really all you can ask from him, and he turned it into a success. He was the best at it, or he should have been, at least acknowledged as the best at it in the league. That being said, if I'm Malik Monk, and I just turned in 2 years of that coming off the bench, and I couldn't even win the award or get the primary recognition for that, why would I want to continue being that? I think Malik already 100% was going to have being a starter and his role on the team be a large part of his negotiations this offseason, maybe just as much as the money that he's going to get. But if I'm Malik, now I'm going like, I'm absolutely demanding to be a starter, because I can't even get the recognition from the league in the one form or one award that is dedicated to the work that I did. Right? Malik was never going to win NBA MVP. Maybe he could have won like most improved player, but typically that goes to a player who becomes a starter and becomes an absolute superstar, right? Look what happened to Tyrese Maxey. He won it this year as a starter with the Philadelphia 76ers in the amazing season that he had, right? Malik did his job to the best of his ability. Again, to the league, to a league best ability. And he did not get the recognition for it. This is a guy that has gone his entire career as it's been a struggle, right? His time in Charlotte, him nearly being out of the league in Charlotte, kind of resurrecting his career a little bit in Los Angeles, coming to Sacramento on an extremely team-friendly deal, betting on himself, and putting together his two best seasons of his career to a point where now his value is never going to be higher than what it is. If I'm Malik, I'm making my demands of wanting to start being perfectly known. And if I'm the Sacramento Kings and that's the hang up, yeah, you're starting here in Sacramento, Malik. 100%. Like, I know Mike loves Malik off the bench. He loves him in that role. If the choice is start Malik Monk and keep him on the maximum money you can offer him, which is like $17.4 or $17.5 million per year, or lose Malik Monk because you didn't start him, I mean, one option is way better than the other. Now, I still think the Orlando Magic are the team to fear, because Orlando can go to Malik and say, yeah, you can start. Here's $20+ million a year with no state income tax. We're a playoff team. Come on over. And honestly, I say this with full Kings bias in mind. If the Orlando Magic make an offer like that to Malik, $20+ million a year as a starter on a playoff team in Orlando in the Eastern Conference, I think Malik would be foolish to say no. I think Malik, as much as he loves Sacramento and loves Mike Brown and loves De'Aaron and loves the fans in the city, I think he would be foolish to stay here over that deal. Now, if San Antonio comes to the table and says, here's $20 million a year to be a starter, you get to play with Victor Wembanyama and play for Greg Popovich, but hey, like, we're 1 or 2 or 3 years away from not just making the playoffs, but even more than that, legitimately contending in the Western Conference, then Malik's like, okay, maybe I'll take less money to stay with the Sacramento Kings and play with more or in more important games. Now, I can't confirm or deny. I have no idea if Orlando is actually going to make an offer like that, if San Antonio is going to make an offer like that. We have no idea what his market value is going to be. And I see this question a lot, so I'll address it really quickly. I'm not necessarily a master of the cap, but from what I've read and what I've learned in conversations that I've had, the Kings technically can offer more than $17.4 million or whatever it is per year to Malik. But in order to do that, they have to free up massive amounts of salary. So they would essentially have to salary dump by getting rid of a Harrison or Kevin Huerter, and probably have to attach draft compensation to that to get a team to absorb that money so that they could pay Malik. It's possible. It's unlikely. The best the Kings are going to likely be able to do is put $17.5 million on the table for 3 to 4 years. Supposedly, they could also do like a 1-year deal for that $17.5 million or whatever, and then say, hey, next year when our cap space opens up a little bit more, we'll pay you more and put you on a better long-term deal. But if I'm Malik, anything can happen in this league. I've already bet on myself and proved my worth. I'm never going to be more valuable than I am right now. If I'm Malik, I don't do that. I look for the money and the longevity right now. So I don't really have a gut feeling. I'm very hopeful and optimistic that Malik remains here in Sacramento. I think this NBA Sixth Man of the Year voting, the only part it really plays is Malik going, like, I need to start. I'm not getting recognized as a sixth man. I need to start. I think it validates those feelings of his. And the Kings are, if they're going to get him back, they're going to need to find a way to meet those needs and meet that demand and meet that requirement, which I think I'd like to believe Mike Brown and Monte McNair would before letting him go. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your best place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 whether you win or you lose. And I hope you took advantage of this, because on FanDuel, Malik Monk was the favorite to win Sixth Man of the Year. He's been a favorite for a long, long time. And I've been telling you, I was telling you early on in the season to take advantage of Malik Monk to win Sixth Man of the Year when he was like second or third best odds, right? He was the favorite going into today, and he lost to Naz Reid. It's absurd. But in that scenario, let's say you'd made that bet and you lost. Well, you get $150 in bonus bets. Whether you win or you lose, it does not matter. There's $150 for you to keep playing and make money on FanDuel. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs and slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by BetterHelp. You know, I've talked about mental health before here on Locked On Kings a lot. And in fact, probably should be seeing my therapist and talking to him about why I get so upset and agitated about NBA awards and what it means towards the Sacramento Kings. Although I kind of spilled that out in the first segment. It's just continued disrespect towards the Sacramento Kings and the Kings organization and the city of Sacramento altogether. But I'll unpack that with my therapist, right? In all seriousness, we're all carrying baggage, things in our life, personal, relationship-wise, otherwise, just things that we need to get off of our chest. It's not good to carry around. And whether it's big baggage and extreme things or small baggage, the little things that maybe you don't think are worth talking to a therapist, you need to talk to somebody, because they can help you unpack those. They can help you build the skills to be able to tackle those speed bumps and those brick walls later on in life that are absolutely going to keep coming. No matter, there's no perfect way to avoid mental health issues, right? We are going to hit bumps and snags in the road, all of us, whatever journey that we're on, whatever place in life that we are in. And BetterHelp will help connect you to therapists to work through those snags and better prepare you to overcome them yourselves. If you're thinking about giving therapy a try, I'm telling you, it's for everybody and it's beneficial for everybody. Go to BetterHelp.com. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Well, before all of this nonsense with the NBA Sixth Man of the Year award, General Manager Monte McNair and Sacramento Kings head coach Mike Brown both had their end-of-season press conferences today inside the Kings practice facility. A lot of interesting stuff was said, especially from GM Monte McNair. Answered a few questions of mine, especially in regards to, like, does he regret not making trades at the trade deadline? Talked about the strength of the West, talked about keeping the draft pick, it not conveying to the Atlanta Hawks and what that means for the Kings and their assets going forward. A lot of good stuff from both Monte McNair and Mike Brown. Initially, that was supposed to be the episode today. But naturally, with this Malik Monk news, that deserved all the time and the attention. So on tomorrow's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast, I will have the best sound and sound bites from Mike Brown and Monty McNair for you to enjoy. Kings fans, you're going to want to hear it. And it gives you kind of an idea of what these two are thinking about how this past season went and this incredibly important offseason that, of course, involves bringing back Malik Monk, or hopefully re-signing Malik Monk to a new deal here to remain a member of the Sacramento Kings. So all of that is coming up on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Kings. So I hope you will join me for that. Now I want to hear your thoughts, right? I'm sure you're going to get loose. Maybe you're a Timberwolves fan that's come here to say, Naz Reid won, and here's why. If you can put together an argument that is based in fact, right? Again, I'm biased. You have your Timberwolves bias. I get it. But if you can put together an argument and give me whether it's highlights or numbers that more than just one statistical or two statistical categories that suggest that Naz Reid was a better sixth man, not better player, not on a better team, sixth man in that specific role than Malik Monk, I will read that argument, and I'm happy to admit I'm wrong. But I've been perusing the internet. I've talked to a bunch of people, including people from Minnesota. Nothing I've heard makes any sense to me. Not at all. But if you want to weigh in and on the Naz Reid side of things, go for it. If you're a Sacramento Kings fan and you want to vent your frustrations just like I did, go for it. You can do that on Twitter at MattGeorgeSac. You can email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. Or if you're watching on YouTube, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Appreciate your support. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings, where we hear from General Manager Monty McNair and Kings head coach Mike Brown. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.